Now this is from Martin. He's a woodworker. I came across your article on, there's my web page URL there. I found it very interesting and insightful. I'm a semi-retired serial technology entrepreneur based in Ottawa, Canada. I'm also a building stuff with wood enthusiast. So am I. Lately, I've been extending my search radius of smaller mills in an attempt to find more affordable wood suppliers. Well, that's certainly reasonable. Wood can get pretty expensive, especially if you're going for something other than, standard basic softwoods. I'm certainly going to leverage the advice in your article for softwood. Do you have any similar tips for sourcing hardwoods? Well, the article on softwoods that Martin is referring to has to do with my recommendation that construction grade lumber of the right kind, normally sold for house frames, actually is pretty good material for fine woodworking. Now, when I say that to a group of woodworkers, I usually run into some opposition. They say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what fine woodworking really is. But I can assure you that if you choose the boards correctly, you can make some marvelous stuff out of construction grade lumber. There's some exceptional boards that just get sold for floor joists or whatever from lumber yards everywhere. Softwood for construction is not graded for quality in terms of furniture building. I mean, it is graded, but from a house framing point of view, if you have a 16-foot long 2x10 and it's perfectly clear of knots and it's got some interesting grain in it, nobody pays attention to that. Nobody's going to charge more for that board. And those are the kind of boards that can turn into some really nice woodworking projects for you. You won't find any wood any cheaper than that. And believe it or not, contrary to popular wisdom, the spruce, pine, and fir lumber that is sold for building frames here where I live takes a finish beautifully. I'm going to be going into more detail about this later in the show, but Martin's particular question is about hardwoods, which of course there's no such thing as construction grade hardwood. All house frames, at least in my part of the world, are made with softwood because it's a lot easier to work with and it's plenty strong. But Martin lives in an area where there's a lot of forests around the city of Ottawa. And I don't know the scene too well in that region, but I can assure you and Martin that there will be small sawmills around that are cutting lumber from local logs. And some of that's going to be hardwood too. The mills are one of two types. There's a stationary mill where the logs are brought to the mill and then they're cut. These are easier to find because they don't move around and they're pretty big and they look like a sawmill. But then there's also portable sawmills, which are almost always big band saws on a track. And those mills go to the forest. So someone will cut some lumber, some timber worthy of sawing into lumber. They'll drag it out to a clearing somewhere, and then the guy with his portable band sawmill will come and start cutting up into boards. So how do you find these people, stationary or traveling band sawmill? Well, the internet's a great thing for that. When I was answering Martin's question by email, I did a quick Google search for sawmills near Ottawa. And that could be anywhere. Small sawmills near Louisville, Kentucky, or small sawmills near Edmonton, Alberta. It doesn't really matter. And in most cases, every case I've ever seen, there's some listings that come up. So you need to connect with these people and make a deal on some boards. You're going to find that usually they're very, very good to deal with. Certainly there's a handful of small sawmills where I live, and you get to know the people and they let you pick through their lumber pile. Just be sure to return the lumber into a nice pile when you're done if you don't want to wear out your welcome. But you can get wood there that way for maybe half the price of retail. Now, in most cases, you're not getting kiln-dried wood, so the wood hasn't gone through some sort of a chamber, a heated chamber in order to dry it out faster. But I actually consider that a bonus because wood that's been air dried, so not kiln dried, is actually a lot nicer to work with. It's less brittle, it planes better, it sands better. I really like it, and there are plenty of easy ways to reduce the moisture content of your lumber so it works well for interior projects without having to use a drying kiln. So, in fact, the best lumber in the world for fine woodworking comes that way.